Hello, hello. So welcome to this presentation around goals. And very clearly the first slide that you're going to see here is I know, goals yawn. For so many of us, it's just we have this resistance and this just like, humdrum around goals. But what I would like to do today in this presentation is to just talk you through some of the myths we have around goals and myth bust those for you. And then also explain why getting into the groove with goals is a good idea, and then some first steps to get going. So a quick fact that I think is really key to know, it used to be just 2% of all adults. It's now, the statistics are around the 3% mark, but 2 to 3% of adults have clear, written, well-defined goals and have an action plan in place to achieve those goals. That's a really small percentage of the adult population. But what's really interesting is that by every measurable statistic, that 2 to 3% accomplish 10 times more than everyone else that doesn't have goals. So they are in measuring in terms of success, career, happiness, all of the things you can possibly measure, they are 10 times more successful in those areas. So if that's not a motivation to think, maybe I want to be one of the 2 to 3% of the population, keep on listening and I'll go through the myths for you. So the first myth that a lot of people sort of have is, I already have goals, I don't need to set any new ones. And invariably when people say that and we go through the process of, okay, so what are those goals you have? There are things like, I want to be rich, I want to be successful, I want to be thin, I want to be famous. They're sort of not really goals, they're just pie in the sky fantasies or wishes or ideas. And to be able to call it actually a goal, it needs to be carefully designed, it needs to be well defined, and it needs to be something that you're willing to work on. A really good analogy, I think, is to think about a home, either a home that you are renting or that you own or you're living in. And if you imagine from the day you move in, if you do absolutely nothing to maintain or renovate or modernize or tidy up your home, if you just move in and just carry on living your life without any sort of attention to the home, it doesn't take very long for the home to start falling apart and to start having maintenance issues and things like that. Whereas if it's a home that you really care about, even a rental property, you can move in, keep it clean, keep it tidy, keep doing little tweaks and things here. That is when a home stays warm, clean, healthy, and all those things. And goals are a little bit the same. If you set your goal and then just keep tweaking it, what's working, what's not working, what can I renovate, what can I modernize, what can I tidy up, that's the process of goal setting. So just having an idea, I want to be rich or I want to be famous, is not really an actual goal, it's just an idea. If it's not in writing, if it doesn't have an action plan, it's not a goal. Myth 1, busted. Myth 2, I don't need goals, I'm doing just fine. And for a lot of us, we think this is true. We're cruising through our life, doing just fine, don't need to be one of those goal setters. And the truth is, actually, if you are doing just fine, if you're quite happy with where you're at without setting goals, just imagine how much more you could be achieving if you had goals. Given that every measurable statistic shows that goal setters achieve 10 times more, not 10% more, 10 times more than those of us that don't set goals. And then I want you to imagine if you were going to go on a road trip with some friends and you're like, woo, let's go, and you pack the car and you take off. If you don't have a roadmap, if you don't have a destination that you're going to, if you don't have a set plan of where you might make some stops, will you stop for food somewhere, or alcohol stop or whatever it is. But if you don't have a plan in place, it's very hard to know if you've even got there. You need to have a destination in mind and then tick off, oh yeah, we're halfway there, we're on our way. But if you don't know where you're going, it's hard to keep track of how well you're doing on your journey or your road trip. Myth 3, I don't need written goals, I've got them all in my mind. And this used to be me. I used to think, oh yeah, I've thought through a few things in my head, got it sussed. But the reality is that we have over 1,500 thoughts processing through our mind every minute. That's a lot. That's a lot of stuff going on. Some of it we're aware of, most of it we're not. So if you have goals set in your mind, they are likely to be just tumbling around in there with a whole lot of other thoughts, some positive, some negative, some distractions, whatever else is going on. And so your goals, even if you've sort of worked through them in your mind, if they're sitting in there, they're getting muddled, disordered, they tend to be a bit contradictory and vague, and they can lose their potency, I guess. They lose their clarity, and then your motivation to work towards that goal gets lost. Myth number 4, I don't know how to set them. Well, this isn't actually a myth. This is true for most of us. We've never really learnt the process of goal setting. Sadly, it's not taught in schools, and I think that's just such a shame because it's a life skill that's really important. The good news is it is a life skill. It's a skill. It's learnable. All essential skills are learnable, like riding a bike, driving a car, all of those things that get us through our day-to-day and we learn over time. They're just skills. If you think about the first time you hopped on a bike to try and ride it, you probably fell off a few times, had a few scraped knees, wobbled quite a lot, couldn't figure out the steering while you were busy trying to figure out the pedaling. You know, there's a lot of process happening and there's a lot to think about. But over time, with lots and lots of practice and repetition, suddenly you're riding a bike and you can go from A to B without even thinking about the actual mechanical process of riding the bike. That's just secondary to I'm just going in this direction, I've got to stop at this light, that light. And goal setting and the skill of working through goals can be the same. The more you practice it, the more you repeat the process, it suddenly becomes automatic. It's an automatic skill that just grooves along in the background. You just got to be willing to put the work in the beginning. Myth 5, goals don't work. Life's too unpredictable. You can't set goals in concrete and expect to achieve them because you don't know what's around the corner, right? I've heard that argument a lot from people. And the key thing to understand, and I really like this fact, is that actually when a plane takes off for its destination, it spends 99% of the time in the air off course. So a pilot's job during the entire flight is to keep course correcting the plane so that it gets to the desired destination. Life is much the same. When you take off on a destination for a goal, you know, there's going to be speed bumps. There's going to be stuff that happens in life that takes you for a spin, left or right. You could hit a brick wall in some area and have to detour. There's all of these things. Life gets in the way. But as long as you know the destination you want to head to, you can keep course correcting and keep getting back on track towards that destination. But if you don't have a focused destination in mind, you can just go off in any area of your life, and then what tends to happen is people get to their 30s, 40s or 50s, maybe younger, maybe older, but at some point people get to this place where they're like, oh my God, what am I doing with my life? There has to be more to life than this, right? These are the big questions people start asking. I don't know what my purpose is. I need to find a purpose for my life. Right? We just get lost in the humdrum and we go rolling through the motions without really even having any control. I call it, sitting in the passenger seat of life. Setting goals and having set destinations where you want to head for yourself is a really great way to get out of the passenger seat, get back in the driver's seat, and start taking some direction about where your life wants to be, where your life wants to go, and what your life means for you. Hopefully those 5 myth busters there have given you some motivation to maybe give this goal setting thing a try. One of the key things that I think is lacking from a lot of goals training, and I think it's a key factor for success, is to make sure that you tie your goals to your core values. Now, if you don't know what your core values are, we've done the exercise a few days ago around connecting with your why. Those words that bubbled up for you as you did the exercise around your why, they are the key connectors to your core values. So those are giving you an indication. If you start tying your goals to those words, that is tying them to your core values. But if you want to go deeper, you can reverse engineer it, I call it. So start focusing on, okay, what is my big dream? What is my big goal that I have for my life? And then once you've figured it out, it might be to own $1 million home. It might be to just be really successful in my business. Maybe it's to go and build a school in Africa or a well somewhere or whatever it is. And then you ask yourself, why is that so important to me? That goal that I've just dreamed up there, why is that important to me? And allow yourself to find an answer. And sometimes you'll try and second guess it. It can't be that. That doesn't make sense. But just go with that first instinct and ask yourself a question. Okay, there's the answer I got. Why is that so important to me? And let the answers keep bubbling up and keep asking the question. Wow, okay, so I got that idea. Why is that so important to me? And what will happen is it'll start to feel annoying. You'll start to feel annoyed with the question, why is that so important to me? I promise you will. But if you stick with it and keep working through, what happens is eventually that annoyance is trying to save you from the emotion you're about to feel. When you start feeling emotionally connected to the answers that are coming, that's when you know you're hitting the gold. That's when you know you're getting really tapping into a core value for you. And it might be, oh, wow. It might come down to, I really want to show that person who told me I was never going to amount to anything that, yes, I am. I'm going to have success. Who would have made that connection to, I want to own $1 million home or $50 million home or whatever, to, it's just so I can say, yes, I'm a success, and I can show that person who told me I'd never amount to anything that, yes, I can. But now you've got the fuel on board. You've got this drive and desire for success, to be a success. There's your core value. Now, if you start setting your goals up around being a success and creating success for yourself, you're going to have more success in the goal setting process. Other questions you can ask yourself: what's truly significant to me? What do I value most? What do I appreciate most about my life or my surroundings? What do I firmly believe in? What am I committed to? What am I fully willing to commit to? When you get answers to that, that's again tucking down deeper into your core values. And then what will happen over time is goals will come and go. Like the actual desire to have $1 million home or $50 million home, whatever it is, that may come or go for you. But the actual fuel behind it, that core value of wanting to be a true success or create success or whatever it is for you, that remains. And that will be the fuel to keep you driving in the direction you want to go. So that's the whole point of getting in touch with this. People say get in touch with your why, find the why that makes you cry. Those are all those statements. But the reason is, if you can tap into that, that will be the thing to help drive you forward and get you where you want to go. So some ideas of core values. I've put some here on this sheet. And what you can do is just read over those words and notice if any particular word sort of jumps out at you or has a little emotional pang when you read it. And different words will speak to different people. So don't judge the words that work for you or don't work for you. Just notice if 2 or 3 of them seem to have more impact for you than others, and jot those ones down, because at some level those will be connected to your core values, or these will be your actual core values that are important to you, whether you know them or not. And then this will these questions I've got here will help you have create a sense of what your priorities are. Are your actions in alignment with your core values? So you might have found on the previous page that freedom and kindness and success were your core values. Maybe those 3, seem to have a power for you. What are the actions you take each day? And are they in alignment with those core values, or are they in alignment with something else? Are they just hamster wheel habits? Is your behavior consistent with those values? And then again, look at the goals you're setting. Are they in alignment with those core values? Sounds like I'm hammering on a bit, but if you can get this point and work through this system, you're bound to have greater success with your goals. And that's the key. Now, I have spoken before about SMART goals. SMART is an acronym for specific, measurable, achievable, realistic, and time-bound goals. So what does specific mean? Well, you might say, I want to own a nice home, right? That might be a goal. But actually that's not specific enough. That doesn't, yeah, sure you do. Great. See if you can put a measurable amount on it. I want to own a $2 million home in pick an area where you would love to live. If say if you're in Christchurch, you might pick, Cashmere Hill or somewhere, I don't know. If you're in Sydney or Melbourne, it might be some particular suburb there that you would love to live there with views of whatever, the ocean, the gardens, whatever for you. So get an idea of where it would be. What would the value be? Is it a $2 million home? Is it a $50,000 home? Depending on where you live, the value can change a lot. So pick a value that's realistic in the neighbourhood you want to live in, and then get specific. Do you want a 5-bedroom home? Do you want a 3-bathroom with ensuite? Do you want a 3-car garage with internal access? That's the word I'm looking for. Do you want it to be solar powered? Do you want it to be energy efficient? Would you like an entertaining area? Would you like a lovely outdoor area, a swimming pool, a spa pool? Get really specific about what those things, how it would look for you. The more specific you can be in this area, the better it is to flash out exactly what it is that you're shooting for. And a good idea is to imagine, as you're writing down your goal, if I, think to yourself, if I had to hand this piece of paper to someone and they were going to give me exactly what is written down here, what am I going to get back? So how clear can you be? If you want to go right down to the type of cladding on the side of the house, the style of the house, is it a villa? Is it a townhouse? Is it an apartment? Is it concrete clad? Is it this, that, the other? If you can get really clear about that vision you have for yourself, it helps stir up the emotional connection and the drive towards achieving it. And when we set a time bound, and when I say time bound on this, it's about looking at, I'd love to own that home in 5 years. So give that a date by December 2000 and whatever, right? And then maybe in 5 years you will have reached the goal. Maybe you won't have. But the only thing that should shift once you've gotten really clear what your goals are, don't change the goal. You may need to change the time. That's okay. You may need to push the boat out a little bit and give yourself a bit more time. Maybe you need less time. But stick with that goal that you come up with, because it's some connection that's important for you. Don't change the goal, only be willing to change the time. And then get down to a breakdown. So you can break your goals down into various areas. Career, personal, relationship, financial, contribution. You may look at this list and think, well, I'm just going to have a personal goal, a financial goal, and a relationship goal. That's fine, but just get yourself a few categories and then break that big, big, big life goal you've got and break it down to, well, how would that look in 5 years' time? And then, okay, to get to that goal, what would the goal have to be in 1 year's time to be, so I know I'm on my way to the big goal? So say you want to own I'll say $1 million home. Now in New Zealand at the moment that doesn't buy you much, sadly, but say you want to own $1 million home and that's your big life goal, to own this beautiful home and its value is $1 million. Well, in 5 years' time, maybe you would want to have at least $200,000 sort of savings or of money to invest towards your $1 million home. So your 5-year goal is to have $200,000, and maybe you've got a first home that's building you towards the $1 million home. So what would that look like in 1 year? Well, maybe it looks like you've got $50,000 saved or $20,000 saved, or, you just keep reverse engineering the question to get back to what does that look like in 90 days? Well, maybe I need to be earning $2,000 within the next 90 days per month to be able to tuck money away to start building up my savings. But you just reverse it back and break it down into bite-sized pieces, and then that becomes something that's easier to manage and easier to work with than just constantly striving for the huge goal. Break it down, and that's where you start getting your action plan. So there we go. That is, I'm just going to make that bigger. There we go. That is goals in a nutshell. That is the process that you're going to go through. By all means, go into this folder. We've got worksheets here for you. We've got everything you need to help make this process simple. And go to your upline. Go to the person who introduced you and ask them for help in this area if you need it or want it. But this is the trajectory you want to be on to really create firm success for you. So I hope you found this helpful, and we will talk to you soon.